Hello, my name is Christina Stone Kaiser. Thanks for being with me today. We are cooking from the How Not to Die Cookbook by Dr. Michael Grieger. And today we are making the vegetable unfried rice. So because whole plant cooking works with no oil, and I'll show you that, we come up with the unfried rice. And this is a little picture of what he's got going here. So some black rice, some carrots, some broccoli, and a whole bunch of other stuff put in there together. So I've done a little bit of prep. I've got black rice going. In a more ideal world, you made your black rice already and it was cold. That is never my world. I never have rice on hand. But I do have a pot going. You could do this in a wok or in a skillet. I'm doing a double batch, so I just want a bigger surface to be working with. And I have my onion already diced, so this is one very large onion. He calls for red, but I have white on hand, so white is what I'm using. And then he calls for 1 carrot shredded. So I've done 3 because if you've been with me at all, you know that my motto is you can never have too many vegetables, and the only reason to measure them is to make sure you get enough of them. So in goes the onion as that pot is nice and hot. And this is going to saute in a 1/2 cup of water because I've got a double batch going here. So instead of a 1/4 cup, I've got a 1/2 cup. And here are my shredded carrots, so you could shred them yourself, as I did. You could buy them shredded, or if you are just too busy, you could buy sliced carrots frozen and call it a day. I mean, what difference does it really make? If you look at people who talk to people about, oh, what's the healthiest vegetable, frozen or fresh? They actually say just eat some vegetables. Get them any way you can. Eat more vegetables than you're currently eating. So I shredded these with a peeler that does shredding. So my shreds are a little bit longer. I could have cut them. I just didn't this time. And I'm just moving them around in order to get them kind of distributed. Now I'm cooking in the middle of the day because our family will then have after school activities. And when we come home, I want to be able to put dinner on the table. But here I have some frozen peas that are defrosting right now. I'm not going to put these in until we're ready to eat, until later tonight. So I'm just going to let them kind of like defrost throughout the day. If I stick them in, they're going to cook and get that kind of pale color that you get from canned peas. I want them to be fresh and vibrant later on. So I'm not going to... And if also, I should just say, if you're like me, you like to get it done and feel like it's done. And so that temptation to go ahead and put it in is there. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold myself back. Also, while this is sauteing up, I can show you this sauce. So last night, I threw together an unami sauce that's in the front of his book. And it's kind of like everything in the kitchen sink. There's garlic and ginger and vegetable stock and molasses and... rice wine vinegar and date sugar. So there are, for me, because this is a double batch, 4 tablespoons of that with a 1/2 cup of water mixed in with some tahini, 2 tablespoons of tahini, 2 teaspoons of rice vinegar. What else is in there? I could just tell you. Miso paste. 2 teaspoons of miso paste. So all that, and I've just used a fork as a whisk. I went all grandma on it and used my fork as a whisk. This is a sauce that's going to go in a little bit later. If you're allergic, for instance, to sesame seed, or you don't have tahini on hand, a nut butter of some sort would do well, or a sunflower seed butter. Those are reasonable swaps. I also have my garlic that's going to go in peeled, and I have some like pre-done ginger. So that's going to be ready for me. I've also got my broccoli all chopped up. And again, so this is 4 cups of broccoli, kind of heaping cups. If you're just too busy, you can buy frozen chopped broccoli. This could be a largely frozen meal that you just dump all in. You wait for it to thaw and get warm and then eat. So these are the kinds of sauces. If you're cooking from scratch, you kind of get used to making sauces all the time. You have the ingredients on hand. You have miso or tahini or rice vinegar. You'd have stuff on hand, mustards and things like that. So I must have every kind of cooking wine on hand. I've got, I actually do have oils because I don't always cook whole plant. Sometimes if I'm working with a specialty recipe or it's a holiday, I go ahead and use that. So I'm just checking in on how This is coming. I want that onion to soften up a little bit. And when my rice is done, I've got 2 minutes to go, I'll kind of open it and give it a chance to at least cool down a wee bit. Also, later on in this recipe comes some scallion. So I have found that cutting up my scallion when I bring it home has kept it a little fresher. So my scallion is ready to go. And that's kind of everything in this particular recipe. It's pretty simple. Really, it's just the waiting for things to be cooked through a little bit. So for me today, I'm going to use my garlic press in order to get the garlic going in there. And this is a nice one my mom got me for Christmas. I had the same garlic press for like 20 years. And now I have this one. It's a little heavier, so it does a little bit better job of pushing everything through. I'm just really in love. I'm in love with my new garlic press. I was chopping garlic a lot more at the end of my old garlic press, but this one has got me mincing it a lot more often these days. So that goes in, and let me just check on how much of this ginger it calls for. 2 to 3 teaspoons. So that's, I don't really measure it because I don't like to. So I just sort of, I measured at some point, saw how much it looked like, and then I stopped measuring. So those can kind of go in and start to flavor that up. You can also use some red pepper flakes in order to add a little heat to this dish. Or you could add sriracha on the back end of it. That would also be totally reasonable and doable. Because this goes so quickly, I think it's 4 scallions, is that right? 3 scallions. So I'm going to use a pretty generous amount of scallion in here. My rice is done. And something like this little bit that's left over, I might make it with Saturday morning breakfast. Just throw it in with some scrambled tofu or something like that. I am using black rice today. And I have to tell you, I absolutely adore, I don't even know if you're able to see it. Yeah, you can pretty much see it. I absolutely adore black rice. I think I've said this in other videos, but it's just got this hearty texture to it that makes everything so much better. So I'm going to go ahead and give that rice a little bit of a stir. I'm going to throw this broccoli in. And you're going to get that fragrance of the ginger and the garlic wafting up, which is so great. I'm going to move this around a bit. And if I remember correctly, that sauce is going to go in so that this broccoli can really cook. But before I do that, I'll just stir around and let some of that carrot break up because I had those really long strands of carrot. And, you know, if you have kind of picky eaters, I have one that does not like peas, and that's going to be a challenge tonight. So we'll probably have to make a compromise around the peas. But in my family anyways, broccoli and carrots are one of those things that a lot of people will go ahead and say yes to in the family. So it's kind of an easy meal that way. So add the broccoli, garlic, ginger, and scallion. Then you add your rice, peas, unami sauce, and you let that cook another 5 minutes. So it really goes fast. And again, you could use a wok or a skillet, but because I tend to be cooking with so much, because it's 3 cups of cooked rice, so for me that's going to be 6 cups of cooked rice, and so that's why I just want a little more space when I'm cooking. Also, you find like broccoli in a lot of ways, as it cooks down, it becomes a little more spongy, and it just doesn't take up as much space as it did when it was raw. And I actually don't even like raw broccoli that much. I feel like the texture of it kind of annoys me. You know, we've all got our thing. So in just a moment, I'll go ahead and add all the rest of it too. And like I said, when I was making that unami sauce, I probably could have just made the rice last night, but I had so many dishes yesterday, I just wasn't in the mood. So the nice thing about this, there's a lot fewer dishes. I love these meals where, you know, if this is the exception, I've really got a cutting board and a pot. And all those other little dishes that I pulled out, that was just for our benefit so that we could move quickly. Otherwise, I would just sit here and add and add and add. So checking in again. This is reasonably mixed together, so I can go ahead and pour that in. And I'll pull as much of that tahini off the sides as I can. There's so many brands of tahini. Actually, this one I'm using right now is a brand I've not used before. And you can actually, if you want to, you can measure your rice to make sure that you're getting, I'm actually not going to, I'm just pretty sure I know what I've got here. So I'm going to go for it and put that rice in. And again, I mean, such a beautiful, I really should just buy black and red rice because it is the most beautiful thing in the world. I can show you how gorgeous and colorful these meals are. So I'm stirring all that around. That sauce is going to get into the vegetables and around and on that rice. And then when you're ready to eat, you may find that your kids or yourself wants a little bit of sauce. So sometimes our kids ask for a little soy, or sometimes we have like a Thai chili sauce, sriracha, something like that, just to help them through. He does have a hot sauce recipe at the beginning of his book. I haven't done it. I haven't made it. But that exists too. So it's so gorgeous. These flecks of orange and green mixed in with black. As opposed to what, I don't know. But I mean, sometimes you just get a meal and it looks mostly white and it doesn't make you feel very happy. If you wanted even more color, you could probably add a little red cabbage in here. So you could add a little yellow pepper. If you had some of that on hand, just anything to give you those rainbowy colors. You could also add red pepper. And that's basically it, right? So I would let that cook another minute just to let those flavors absorb, but this is going to sit throughout the day. It's going to get a little bit of a warm up later tonight, so I don't have to worry so much about, like, did I get it all the way? And we're not looking for our vegetables to become these big balls of mush, right? We want them to have a little bit of crunch so that it feels like we're eating, like we have this texture component to the meal. So that is the veggie unfried rice. I hope that will be inspirational for you and you'll go out and give it a try, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.